So I had a comment posted on my Hazmat Pearl review, and while it kind of frustrated me, there was a lot of truth to it too, so I thought it warranted a video talking about it because it's worth it and it's kind of complicated. We're just going to watch some video from the Hazmat Pearl and Max Thrill Hybrid while I talk through it, and then I'll try to fix some things. The comment that was left says as follows. Weird, I've watched probably 100 of your reviews and they all look the same. Drilled same layout, rolled on same oil pattern, the only difference is the ball. The Max Thrill Hybrid is supposed to be a light oil ball, but you're playing the same line and getting the same reaction as this ball. My impression is that it really doesn't matter what ball you buy unless you're EJ Tackett. They're probably going to look pretty much the same when I roll them unless I give them different surfaces. First off, I can see what they're seeing and saying, even though I'm not necessarily happy about it and don't necessarily agree. These balls definitely shape very similarly and feel familiar to each other, but as I hope to illustrate later, I think the Hazmat is the stronger ball by a fair amount. Now, before you get too wound up about it and what they said either, they're not being completely literal down to the exact word of what they said. Everything looks the same is a figure of speech sentiment, meaning everything looks too similar, and the general viewing community has felt this way for years, and it's literally why I got into making videos in the first place. I used to have people come into the pro shop all the time and say, hey, I'm interested in a couple balls. I've tried watching videos on YouTube, but every video is somebody with a 500 rev rate, hooking the whole lane, set to rock music, and everything looks the same. Can you help me out? There's all kinds of points to hit, so I'll try to cover all the bases and be as efficient as possible, but you know me. Question 1. Why don't you throw the balls on the conditions they're designed for? This would make them look even more similar than they already do. If I'm throwing a heavy oil ball on heavy oil and a light oil ball on light oil, they're going to look like the same ball. It'd be like comparing golf clubs, like say a pitching wedge versus a 7-iron. If you typically hit a pitching wedge 100 yards and a 7-iron 150, and you're aiming at a target or distance line or whatever, if you stand 100 yards from the target with a pitching wedge and 150 yards from the target with a 7-iron, you're going to hit the target with both of them, or the ball is going to end up in the same place. It's only when you stand in the same place, i.e. use the same lane condition, and hit the ball with each club that you're going to see the difference. So that's why we use chromium for everything. It's a slightly above medium volume and length pattern that's not sport pattern tough, but not house shot easy. It's just the best measuring stick that I've found. It's got enough volume and length that the strong stuff isn't going to burn up, but it's got enough friction to where the weaker stuff can still move. This also answers the question of, well, most people bowl on house shots, so why don't you film on house shots? But there's a couple more points there too. First, house shots are built to be easy or very forgiving, and because most regular bowlers don't have huge rev rates, they're also pretty dry, so everything's going to hook, and it's all going to look a lot more similar than it really is. Weaker balls need friction or dry boards to hook. The more dry you give them, the more they're going to hook, and at a certain point, the strong balls start burning up while the weaker balls are flying, and then we get into the issue of, okay, if this is supposed to be a strong ball, why is this weaker ball out hooking it? This goes back to the tire analogy. Everybody knows that you don't use snow tires in NASCAR because they're not racing on snow. If you did, they'd be sliding everywhere and the tires would get chewed up in a heartbeat. But if you were racing on snow, those same racing slicks that are sticking to the asphalt like glue would offer zero traction or grip whatsoever. It's the same concept in bowling. Question 2, segueing off the last one. Okay, then why don't you bowl on a really high oil pattern so that you can see the differences better? Well, if I did that, then only the super strong stuff is going to look good. Most of the other balls are going to be weak and skid and look bad, and people rarely take any of the variables into account. Everything is on the ball for some reason, one way or another, unless there's a significant mistake or adjustment made. And even then, it has to be extreme because it's always, well, that ball didn't hook, or that ball doesn't recover, or wow, that ball took off, or wow, that ball hit bad, so on and so forth, without taking into account shot quality or anything else. If I'm trying to throw a Max Thrill Hybrid on a 30 mil pattern, it's going to ice skate, and even if I say, well, that means this is a lighter oil ball, people are still just going to see it going straight and fluttering and think it sucks. Question 3. Okay then, well, why don't you put balls through specific tests, like throw them extra hard or slow, or get really up the back of them, or really around them, or high rev or low rev? Well, it's because people don't want to see that. That kind of goes back to the last question too. If you start actually testing a ball's limits by doing extreme things, all people are going to see is a bunch of bad ball reaction, and they're going to think the ball sucks. For all people's complaining and accusations that we're trying to sell them stuff or hype stuff up, or that we're getting paid to say certain things, that's wishful thinking. They still have to see the ball strike. If the ball strikes too much, then it's unbelievable, but as soon as we show misses, then that means the ball sucks. Same deal with testers. Whenever Zach's on a video, it's always, why can't we get regular bowlers in videos? Not many people throw it like this guy. As soon as you put a regular bowler in a video, though, it's, well, how am I supposed to tell what the ball does if the tester can't throw it the same way twice? Why can't we get a good bowler to test these balls so that we can get a better read on the ball reaction? People will also buy different balls so that they can have a more complete arsenal, but they'll also drill them all to be the same. Never fails that people will buy a Black Widow Mania and want to drill it to be a little smoother so it doesn't turn sideways on them, but then also buy a ball like the Origin EX and want to drill it to be sharper so it's not lazy. Then they let everything lane shine and never change the surface because they want this ball or that ball so that they can say that they have an arsenal, but they also want everything to be throwable in League whenever they want to throw it at the same time. I worked for several years in a federally funded testing lab and have been in testing or inspection jobs or positions for most of my working life, so I'm hyper aware of what creates accurate and fair testing conditions and all the things that can throw that out of whack, throw false positives, skew the results, and unfortunately the standard deviation for bowling is off the charts. There are all things to consider, and a lot of things are catch-22. I have to do certain things due to perception, whether they're right or productive or not. My intent is to test every ball from several zones so that I can find out where the ball likes to be, what it likes to do, and what it may look like for as many styles as I can mimic. I also try to strike from every zone I'm in, not to make the ball look good, but to see what kind of an adjustment it takes so that I can communicate to you things like this ball is just way too strong or responsive to play super straight with, so you are either going to need high speed or a low rev rate, or a lot of oil, or a combination of all those if you want to play straight up second arrow with this ball. Some balls are also more continuous, and some are more forward, so in the case of the stealth mode, which, while symmetric, is really continuous. So if I slow it down and rev it up a little, I can get it through the pins from virtually as deep as I want to get. However, the Theorem Pearl is a little more hook set, so I need to slow it down, rev it up, and get way around it to get it to finish right. And it's still pretty difficult to make that happen, so that tells me if you get more up the back of the ball, the Theorem Pearl is probably going to hook stop on you a lot. There's a difference between what a ball will do within the confines of how I throw the ball versus what it's capable of and what it wants to do. The Hammer Effect, for example, has been a great ball for a lot of people since it came out, but all it wants to do for me is hook off the planet and puke. It's very strong, very responsive, and very forward, so for my slower speed, medium rev rate, and getting more up the back of the ball, my game is the worst possible matchup for that ball. However, for someone with higher speed, a lower rev rate, and that gets around the ball, it's going to be amazing. Some balls want to be early and smooth and play fairly straight, like the original Idol. It was round and continuous, and it hooked a lot, but it really didn't like getting too deep on the lane. Other balls like the Theorem or Black Widow Mania want to fly. They're kind of sensitive or over-under from straighter, but if you give them some angle to work with, they're really nice. Too many people get balls because they want them, and then they try to force the ball to do what they want it to do, and if it doesn't, it's the ball's fault. My job is to find out what the ball wants to do so that I can help people get the right ball either for their game or their intended conditions or situations. If a ball doesn't want to do something for me personally, that doesn't mean it actually doesn't want to do it or that it wouldn't do it very well for someone else. That's why I've gone to having both a regular review so I can explain the ball reaction in as much detail as possible, and also do a live commentary so that I can give shot-to-shot context on what I'm doing or what my adjustments are or what the mistakes were with every shot. So finally coming to the comparison between these two balls, I can play all over the lane with both of them, but getting deeper takes significantly more effort with the Max Thrill Hybrid, and playing straighter takes significantly more effort with the Hazmat Pearl. They're very similar shaping balls though, both kind of a heavier rolling tumble, and they're similar colors too, so I'd be blowing smoke up your ass if I said that they didn't look extremely similar. However, I'm making adjustments throughout too, and some things just simply don't come through the camera well. It's sometimes like someone reviewing a golf club or a baseball bat. You're going to have to heavily rely on the reviewer to communicate things to you because swinging the different bats yourself is going to be quite a bit different from watching them on a video. On a bowling ball video, you just see the ball go down the lane and hook, and unless the differences are extreme, like the ball is very smooth or very sharp, or really refuses to play straight or get deep, most balls are going to kind of blend together on video. I think one of the biggest failures is on my part with how I do the comparisons. I show balls striking from every zone, but I can't offer both a comparison of the balls and context for each individual shot, and to really truly fully test a ball, it would require a 30-minute video and people to watch that video very carefully in its entirety, and that's not going to happen. So I have to ride the fence between giving information and working within the boundaries of human perception and attention span. That's getting harder and harder to do, and that's compounded by how difficult it is to pick up on smaller details on video. It takes a significant change in speed, rev rate, angle of rotation, axis rotation, targeting for you to see, and you absolutely can't watch all of that at the same time. If you're focusing on targets at the arrows and breakpoint, you can't watch anything else. If you're watching for angle and axis rotation, it's hard to see anything else. If you're watching for speed and revs, it's hard to see anything else. And sometimes even hard to see more than one of those things at the same time. And if you're hyper-focused on the ball reaction, you're not going to be able to fully engage with the commentary. Okay, so why don't you just do live commentaries like everyone else does? There are problems there too. Most of my subs like the more traditional review format. They also get more out of seeing repeated shots quickly rather than seeing one shot a minute or watching a 20-minute video just to see 15 shots. Having something reinforced by seeing shot after shot after shot, and even better, the same shot a couple times from a couple different zoom levels in case something looked weird and they want a different angle or a little closer look. However, it's somewhat difficult to sync up sometimes. Every individual shot is about 6-ish seconds long, and doing the same shot back to back with different zoom levels, every shot I show takes about 12 to 14 seconds. However, sometimes my comments are 5 seconds long and sometimes they're a minute long, so sometimes I have too much video for what I'm saying, and sometimes I have a lot more to say than I have video for. Now, live commentary is super important for the shot-to-shot context. That shot did that because I did this or didn't do this. I got that one out or in, or I got slow, or I dumped it or grabbed it a little, so on and so forth. However, live comm also requires you to compare balls live on the spot. And if you're reviewing a brand new ball and comparing it to a ball that came out months ago and it has 50 games on it, that's a major issue as far as fair and accurate testing goes. The biggest problem, though, is that people don't have the attention spans for what they want to see, and what they want to see is impossible to deliver to them in a couple-minute video. So I hope you get the idea now that I've been rambling forever, so let me attempt to fix this here and show you the true difference between these two balls. They are absolutely complements, and I would say that the Max Thrill Hybrid is a ball and a half down from the Hazmat Pearl, so when the HP starts getting too strong or bogging down, but you still want to be in the same reaction shape, the MTH is a great choice to go with it. Now from the 10 to 5 zone, which is my straightest zone, I'm not necessarily comfortable with either one of them. Both a little too early and strong, so I have to up my natural speed and lower my natural rev rate to get them to work. It was doable with the MTH, but it was a complete nightmare with the HP. From the 14 to 6 zone, I had to help the MTH just a little bit, or I at least had to make sure I didn't get too firm with it or throw it too hard. But with the HP, I had to keep my speed up and make sure that I didn't throw it too slow. Now, as we get deeper, I had to slow the Max Thrill down fairly significantly, and while it would do it, and while getting slower is a comfortable adjustment for me, I had to get a fair amount slower and really hit up on it at the bottom to get it all the way back up through the pins, and also make sure that I didn't get it too far away from the pocket. However, with the Hazmat Pearl, I still had to keep my speed up and make sure that I got it far enough away from the pocket to get it down the lane. Ultimately, the most comfortable and natural zone for me to play with the MTH was 12 to 5. That's where I felt the best. That's where I felt I had the most miss room. Now with the Hazmat Pearl, the sweet spot was about 15 to 5, and 3 boards at the arrows is a sizable difference, even though it may not sound like it. However, what the ball wants to do also factors into this, and I'm still not throwing both balls exactly the same, so just because I'm only 3 boards deeper with the Hazmat doesn't mean it's just 3 boards stronger than the Max Thrill. I was slower and more relaxed with the Max Thrill, just kind of walked it out there and let it walk up. However, you can see I'm faster and firmer with the Hazmat Pearl. The only reason I'm not deeper with it is because I can throw it hard or I can rev it up. Both doesn't really happen. Going 15 to 5 did keep me honest with my speed. I couldn't get slow, but it also allowed me to be somewhat easier relaxed with my rev rate. If I'd have gotten deeper, I'd have still had to throw it hard, but would have also had to bring the revs up a little bit, not to get it to hook, but to get it through the pins the right way because it is a heavier rolling, chuggier ball. Even though it is fairly responsive, it still needs an extra tick to change direction with authority. I think the Hazmat Pearl is naturally a full arrow stronger than the Max Thrill Hybrid, but while I was in a complete comfort zone across the board with the MTH from 12 to 5, I was still giving something away with the Hazmat Pearl. 15 to 5 was the most comfortable place to play with the Hazmat, but it wasn't actually comfortable. If I'd have been in a scoring situation, I wouldn't have been using the Hazmat Pearl because it was a little stronger than what was comfortable for me. I feel like you can see this now that I've hard focused on illustrating and explaining it, but I can't do this every time because how long is this video already? Plus I've got 30 minutes of live commentary for each ball, and that's with 15 to 20 minutes per ball of fat trimmed out as well. I threw each ball for almost an hour, and that was as short as I could get it while not losing an accurate representation of each ball. I also can't explain all this stuff in each video. You have to go into a review with a certain amount of knowledge because it just can't be boiled down that far if you're actually going to get anything legitimate out of the review outside of, well, this ball hooks a little more and it's a little sharper than this ball. If people really thought through this and understood it all, my videos could be 2 minutes long. These are the specs. This is how the ball's drilled. This is the surface. This is the condition. This ball's most comfortable for me from here at the arrows and there at the break point. It likes straighter angles but can get deep if you have the revs for it. It's rounder and more continuous, so you don't have to worry about getting around the ball to get it to finish. It's also on the smoother side, so if you throw it too hard it might be too slow for you, so on and so forth, done and done. But regardless of what I say, people are going to see what they want to see and hear what they want to hear. If you stuck it out this long, thanks. I hope this helped or explained some things, and sorry if I sound bitchy or angry or condescending, or it's just that it is a literal impossibility to fully, completely, accurately, and clearly review a bowling ball and illustrate everything that needs to be illustrated. You unfortunately have to develop a correlation between what I say and what you experience, and you just won't quite get it until you drill the ball yourself. I have something else coming that will explain even more than this in greater detail, so until then I hope this at least helps. And I would say that there's problems across the board. It's hard to see everything on video. People could pay closer attention, but I could definitely do a better job with how I present my comparisons. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you.